always about great service. TD, how's it going? Thanks for coming in. I saw you made your final regular season trip up to New York this past Tuesday.
Yeah, everything is going well, man. The trip was great. Got to see a home run derby, and the Mets came up on top of it, so that was cool. I enjoyed it, man. Early morning flight back yesterday, and got right into work. Is what you got to do.
Yeah, we got to. I mean, the season's coming down to the wire. Mets right in the thick of the wild card race. My Tigers are just a few games away from blowing a 14.5 game division lead. So, lots of great stuff going on in the baseball world.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot of football today. Titans getting ready for the Colts. Also, as always, your chance to talk to TD coming up at 10 o'clock. So get your questions in on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have any questions for TD on the Titans, anything, we would love to hear from you. TD, first, thoughts on the game on Sunday. Another game kind of similar to the Broncos, where the Titans are in it, leading at halftime, leading late in the third quarter, but the wheels kind of fell off down the stretch. Rams showed they're the more talented team and pull away for a 14-point win.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to. They showed that they were the more talented team, and I think when you look at as things got later in the game, it just started to pull away. And I'm not sure exactly. I got to double check the time of possession, but even if it wasn't really lopsided, at least in that later part of the games where the offense is struggling and they get out there and they don't do anything and then the defense has to get right back out, it wears them down. And I think that's really what happened. You saw that specifically with Snead. You saw him get a little bit tired. Not tired, but just not had the same effect later in the game as he did earlier as consistently. So you have that. You have, again, the lack of tackling. Puka Nacua looked like Herschel Walker, back in the day. The way he had that 45-yard run, he's running through tackles. So those are all things you can't have. And I mean, it was bad. I will say this. I was disgusted by that block in the back, or the blindside block that was called on Cedric Gray. I didn't think it had any relevance to the play. I didn't think that it was clear. So the Titans and the penalties continue to be an issue, whether it's them earning it, which they did on most of them, and then others where it's just like, come on, man, like you can't really be calling it.
Right. It's by the book. Yes, that is a penalty. You're not allowed to block going back towards your own goal line. But I agree with you that I think Chim Dike scores on that play, whether that block is made or not. So it didn't have much of an impact on the play, and it's disappointing, especially because it would have been the first punt return for a touchdown in 13 years for the Titans. It's like they can't even catch a break when they finally do launch one all the way to the end zone.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I tell you what, Chim Dike, the special teams group, they're very much aware of that. I'll definitely tell you. If you check out Titans Extra on Thursday nights, we do a 2-minute interview with a Titans player. And I did one with DK this week, and he definitely talked about that. So it's something they're aware of, and it's just a mess that has been that long. Hopefully, with the way the improvement has come with John Fossil and this new group back there, they'll be able to end that streak at some point soon. I wouldn't mind seeing a return for a touchdown, man. That's a pretty cool play.
Yeah, it would be nice to finally get one. 2020, I believe, is the last time they scored a touchdown in a return, and that was A.J. Brown on the onside kick.
Yep.
Before that, it was Darius Jennings week 1 in 2018, and then before that, it was all the way back to 2013. So Titans looking for some explosive plays in the return game. Already have seen Chim with a 71-yard kick return, and then the punt return touchdown that was called back on Sunday. You mentioned L'Jarius Sneed, and I thought it was good, even though you mentioned maybe ran out of gas a little bit at the end, facing off with Devontae Adams for most of the day. It was good to see him play 92% of the snaps, and he was productive. I think the 2 goal line stands that the Titans had that really kept them in the game, second quarter, third quarter, L'Jarius Sneed made 2 plays to prevent touchdowns and force the Rams to kick a field goal.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you're doing that, you're doing your job. And I like the play he had in the corner of the end zone. It was 1-on-1, and he was able to, knock the ball down and keep a touchdown from happening. So, look, it wasn't the lockdown performance that, people have come to expect from the L'Jarius Sneed, given how well he's played in the past. But He's working his way back. It was a solid performance. I think it's one to build upon, but it's not one to rest your laurels on, right? You got to understand, hey, it was good, but it could get better, and I have to make it better. And I think that's the approach that Snead is going to have. We'll talk to him Friday. He typically talks on Fridays, so we'll see what he has to say about that.
For sure. I mean, good to see him out there, and he did look more like the guy the Titans thought they traded for when they made the move with Kansas City, but obviously has to be more consistent, has to be able to finish off those games strong. It'll be a little easier not having to face Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua for an entire game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Last thing on Sunday's game, TD, as we just kind of recap everything that happened in week 2. A lot of discourse about Cam Ward's ridiculous first touchdown throw. And yesterday, Zaire Franklin was talking in the locker room for the Colts, saying he hopes Cam Ward does it again. It was a bad decision, and they'll take advantage if he does something like that again. I think the discourse is funny because, yes, was it a good decision? Absolutely not. Like, that is not something you want to see your quarterback do consistently. But it is super impressive, just the arm talent, moving as fast as he was towards the right sideline and towards the line of scrimmage to just flick it back the other way where Allegretta Manor found some space for a touchdown. Like, you can question the decision, but you can't question the arm talent from Cam Ward there.
Right. You can't question the result. And I think, listen, when you have certain talents, these are the things that happen, right? You say, oh, well, you should never do that. But, if you tell him never to do that and he never does it, you don't have that touchdown. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So it's one of those things where you got to take the good with the bad, and you have to understand that, hey, you know what? This could have a bad result one time, but hey, this time it had an awesome result. And these are the things that he does. Like, that's the Cam Ward experience, right? He specializes in, above the regular things that he does, in being able to find that second play within the play and making sure that because of the time that they spend together in the building, that they know exactly where to go in those scramble situations. Alec Ironmaner said it. He said, look, man, like, I know from watching film with Cam, I know if he's running one way, I know to run the other way to find the open area, and he's gonna find me. And that's really exactly what that play was. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Again, it's something that you don't just ask anybody to do it, but you understand when it's him doing it, it's okay.
Yeah, you don't want to coach those things out of Cam Ward because that is what made him the number one pick, is the ability to make those off-schedule plays
Right.
that a lot of guys can't make. But it also is probably a conversation with Brian Callahan and that offensive staff of like, hey, Cam, you got to pick and choose your spots here. This isn't something that you can be trying to do consistently, because you're probably right that 8 times out of 10, you try and make a throw like that, the result's not going to end the way it did. But if he can pick and choose his spots and find the right times to make those plays when you need it, and I would say that is an example. 3rd and goal, or it was 3rd and 8 towards the red zone, and you haven't been able to cash in for a touchdown yet. I don't blame Cam Ward for trying to make that play, but it's not something that you want to see him doing 5 times a game. It's got to be something that he chooses to do when his team absolutely needs a play.
That is the only touchdown this team has scored through 8 quarters, by the way. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, look,
sure.
it took a play like that, an unorthodox play like that. It took that to make it happen. But, I mean, look, it's no different than I remember back in the day, people always used to get on Michael Irvin because he caught the ball with his body. Well, you know what? 3 championships, never led the league in receptions, but always considered to be one of the best receivers. I would say that worked out just fine, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So that's it, man. Like, sometimes you gotta just let guys play their game the way they play it.
It is just funny though, because Cam Ward, couple of plays he's made is exactly what Will Levis was doing last year, but the difference is he's done it successfully so far. You just hope that doesn't come back to bite him at some point. I could go without the flailing, falling flick pass, the PTSD from last year, even though he completed to Gunnar Helm.
Yeah.
I could I could go without that, I think, from Cam Ward.
Well, I think in that situation, he and Helm didn't have a defender around him too, so
Right. No, he was
that
pretty wide open.
yeah. So that, but you're right though. It did give like, oh boy, there's got to be somebody. Knowing this team, somebody's near there, but fortunately for them, it wasn't.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, your chance to talk to TD coming up at 10 o'clock. If you have questions for Turron Davenport, you can text, you can call, and we will get to those again at the top of the hour. Also, Andrew Allegretta going to join the show for his weekly visit to talk Vanderbilt football at 11. But I want to talk about the offensive line here in this first hour, TD. It's been a tough go of it so far for this group. 11 sacks through 2 games. How can it improve? Is there a big reason for long-term concern with this group, especially with some of the high-priced free agents that they brought in? 615-737-1025 is the phone number. I am out here at beautiful Hermitage Golf Course on this Thursday morning for the 3rd annual Pella Putt for Pink Golf Tournament. TD back at the studios. More coming up here on this Thursday edition of Next Man Up, 1025 The Game. That was Brian Callahan yesterday talking about some of the issues with the Titans' offensive line so far this year. 11 sacks given up. Cam Ward has not had much time back there in his first two starts of his NFL career. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly with you on this Thursday morning. Titans getting ready for their Week 3 matchup with the Indianapolis Colts. And TD, the offensive line, once again, even though we thought heading into this year it was going to be much improved with the investment that they've made there, the injury to J.C. Latham and some of the struggles from the veteran guys on that line have led to struggles once again on the offensive front. How do you feel about this group moving forward? Do you think that maybe this is just some growing pains with some of the additions that they've had there and they're going to figure it out? Or do you think there's some long-term trouble ahead for this group of five?
No, I mean, there's trouble. I think until J.C. Latham could get healthy, that's going to continue to be a situation. The first sack of the game, the Rams, they rushed four. Now, mind you, remember, you got 5 to protect. They rushed 4. And Byron Young just whooped John Ojukwu and got the sack,
Yep.
And then you look at the second one, they just did a good job of collapsing the pocket. Maybe Ward could have gotten the ball out a little bit sooner, but which is something that he admitted. Because the thing we also have to remember, sacks aren't always on the offensive line exclusively, and we tend to blame them for things that may not always be their fault. Yeah, sure, they could protect a little bit longer, but the quarterback has to get the ball out quicker. And along with that, there are times where separation isn't happening, so he can't get the ball out. So it's a mixture of things. I love what Brian Callahan said when he pointed to it being an offensive problem, not just an offensive line problem, but an offensive problem. You know what I mean? Because like you look at the third sack, Cam probably could have got the ball out to Chig on a seam route. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are times where it's various people's fault.
No, and you look at I think it was Willie Donick who tweeted out the still shot right before the strip sack that really turned the game on its head. It was a close game up until that point, and Chig is wide open on a drag, and Cam Ward was hunting for something maybe a little bit deeper and ends up getting sacked, loses the ball, and a couple plays later, it's an 11-point game, and you're pretty much out of it. So it isn't just exclusively on the offensive line, but you look at it's not even the young guys, too. I know J.C. Latham's been hurt, and he wasn't at his best when he was on the field in Denver, but Peter Skoronski's been good. It's been your veteran guys who, I mean, Dan Moore's getting paid $80 million. Lloyd Cushenberry's, $60, $70 million at center. And those guys haven't been good enough so far through a couple of games. And that is a little bit concerning. I'm hoping that it's something where these five just need more reps together and can start to mesh as the season goes along. But from what we've seen from Dan Moore so far, it is concerning that, yeah, he's faced really good edge rushers through the first couple of weeks, but he's gotten beat way more times than he's been able to hold up on that left side.
Yeah, right. And I think that's the thing. I was actually on with the Colts, not radio station, but their website. And that's one of the things I said. It's like, okay, you're paying this man a lot of money, right? And I understand guys on the other side get paid money too, but
Yeah.
a part of paying him a lot of money is to make sure that position doesn't have its lunch taken, you know what I mean, every day of school. And that's what's kind of happening. Maybe not every day of school, but frequently throughout the week. And that's something that they have to get that fixed. And I think, when you look at the big contract, it's understandable, right? I mean, the old adage, the way that the saying goes is, if you want to live in a certain neighborhood, it costs a premium, right? Yeah. And I think if you want to sign an offensive lineman that's even solid, it costs a premium, and that's what the Titans are experiencing.
Yeah, and I understand, he's faced Nick Benito and Jared Verse and Byron Young. It's not like he's facing bad players out there and getting beat. Not that Kwity Paye is some kind of scrub, but do you think that maybe this could be a tune-up week for Dan Moore where maybe he starts to get right when he's not facing one of those guys who's considered an elite edge rusher in this league?
Well, yeah, it's definitely an opportunity for that. And I think when you look at this, right, this is a team, they have 3 sacks as a group. Yeah. Now, the bad news is they do put DeForest Buckner outside sometimes. So rest assured, he'll probably get his opportunities to rush against these tackles. I mean, if
Yep.
I'm a DN or a D lineman, period, a pass rusher, period, I'm saying, hey, I need 1 or 2 shots against both of these guys. You know what I mean? So I would imagine that's going to happen.
With JC Latham, I know Brian Callahan said they're going to monitor him this week. He did not practice yesterday. Just your thoughts, TD. Do you think there's hope that he's out there this week? Because I feel like that could end up being the difference in this game with what we've seen from the replacement level players at right tackle. Like getting JC Latham out there, and I know you don't want to risk him flaring that up and maybe you lose a month of JC Latham, but it just feels so important to this offense progression to have him back out on the field.
Yeah, it's important to the offense without a doubt. But I think I'll be surprised. I don't think he plays this week.
Me too.
Just period. I don't think, and especially knowing what's coming up next. I mean, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson. You remember what they did the last time that this team played them. So
Yes,
I,
sir.
I think they're gonna try to make it through this week, whether it's a Ojukwu, Udo. Um, They'll have to figure it out, but they're going to try and make it through this week. And here's the thing: you look at this Colts team; they're not super solid on the outside as far as the corners are concerned. Like Xavier Howard, he's playing his first consistent football for the first time in like 2 years,
Yeah.
right? And Shavarius Ward is a solid corner. He's coming off a concussion. He missed last week. So I say all that to say, you could go max protection, right? And you could have less men in routes, and with the understanding that your guys are going to win on the outside. And I asked Alec Ironmanner about that, and he flashed a big smile and he's excited about it. Cam Ward, I asked him about it as well, and he's like, hey, I mean, look, I expect our guys to beat their guys, and that's really what it comes down to. And Brian Callahan basically said that if there's one-on-one coverage and there's not a safety over top, there's in essence a green light to take that shot. And Cam Ward really loved that.
Yeah, and if they can protect him, I'd like to see more chances downfield. We've talked about it all week that Cam Ward so far has only thrown the ball beyond 20 yards downfield 3 times, and maybe this is the opportunity to get a couple of those shot plays going. And Alec Ironmanner's made a couple of plays. I'd like to see Calvin Ridley get more involved, and they got him on those little crossers when Cam Ward was on the run on Sunday against the Rams, but I'd like to see Calvin Ridley get deep a couple times, but obviously that starts with being able to protect Cam Ward.
No doubt about it. It starts with being able to protect Cam Ward. And I think it involves scheming, right? And we kind of talked a little bit about the importance of getting Calvin Ridley involved early. He's an emotional receiver. He's one of those guys where you get him involved early and the results are going to come. So why not get him on the move, line him up at number one, send him in motion, and have him motion right into that slant. You know what I mean? And just dump it off to him, let him catch it and run, and those types of things. So I think there's a lot that could be done protection wise, but also play calling wise.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, questions, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, your chance to talk to TD is coming up at the top of the hour. If you have questions, you can text or call. Again, doesn't have to be Titans, can be anything, and we will get to those at 10 o'clock. Later today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, the Nashville Sounds take on Louisville with the first pitch set for 5:35. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Jake Lyman out here at beautiful Hermitage Golf Course for the 3rd annual Pella Putt for Pink Golf Tournament, joined by Turron, Davenport, and Parker Kelly. More coming. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. This Sunday, the NFL game of the week on 94.9 The Fan is the Cowboys versus the Bears at 3:25. NFL game of the week is brought to you by Circus Sportsbook Kentucky and Macero in 12 South. Here you go, TD. Meet the Mets.
Yeah, might not be someone you want to meet right now, but hey,
How,
we the love affair remains.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we've talked about this before, TD. That in baseball, it's just you got to get in. That's kind of where both of us are with our teams right now. The Tigers have now lost 5 out of 6 and are only 4.5 games up in the division. Mets now 1.5 up on the Diamondbacks, who've made a run
Right.
in the last couple of months. So, going to be a fun final 10 games of the season, and hopefully both our teams in the blue and orange are in the playoffs in a couple of weeks. Back to the offensive line here, TD. We mentioned J.C. Latham. I think both of us are on the same page that likely not going to see him for the second straight week. There's a chance, and they said they'll monitor him, but him not practicing yesterday and, the way Brian Callahan's talked about that injury, I don't think we're going to see him on Sunday. But there's been a hesitancy from the coaching staff to put Blake Hance at right tackle. Is that something that you would consider, is moving him and bumping him outside to play right tackle, considering the alternatives are Oliudo and John Ojukwu?
Yeah, I think I don't know. They got to get something out there. Blake Hance, I believe they consider him to be more of an inside guy, so you probably won't see that. I just wonder, Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, he's a guy they're going to work more developmental wise, but I wonder, and it sounds crazy, I know, but I really honestly would encourage them to get Jalen Duncan on the practice squad and get him on the practice squad, make him active for one of the games, and see what he could do, right? Because I think the Jalen Duncan that was at this past training camp is different from the one at the previous two. And I know you're scarred and you don't want to trust him. But at this point, what else? What's a better option? I don't think there are too many better options, frankly.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating to be back in this spot. And I know injuries happen, and like it's random and it's tough that JC Latham is hurt, but to be back in this spot where you're debating who's better between John Ojukwu and Jalen Duncan again after last year is it's frustrating, because the whole point of this offseason, and Mike Borgonzi went out and spent $80 million on a tackle so we wouldn't be having this conversation. And not only has that $80 million man not been very good, you've also got the same guys that you were rotating in and out at right tackle back there again. I mean, I know Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, he's an undrafted rookie, and they did just waive him, and he's back on the practice squad. But if JC Latham is out for a significant amount of time, I just wonder what's the harm of putting him out there at some point, because can it really be worse than what we've seen from Ojukwu and Jalen Duncan over the last couple of seasons?
Well, and that's the thing I'm saying. That's why I believe it would be wise. So they look at him as more developmental guy, but
right,
sure.
Sure.
that aspect that you just the viewpoint that you just took, can it be worse? I think that's what you got to apply to Jalen Duncan. You know what I mean? Can it really be worse? Give him a shot and see what he could do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good news that JC Latham wasn't put on IR last week. That is definitely good news, because that means he is expected to be back at the latest by the Cardinals game, right? If they knew he was going to miss 4 games, they would have put him on IR. So it is good news that he is still on the active roster, and you hope that maybe he's back next week for Houston. But if it does end up they put him back out there and he has a setback and you have to go back to one of these backups, I wouldn't hate putting Brandon Crenshaw Dixon out there, because again, it's like you watch John Ojukwu on that first drive on Sunday, and after, first of all, a first down gets taken away by an illegal man downfield from Kevin Zeitler, false start, and then Ojukwu gets burn off the side and you get a sack and the drive's over just like that. It has to be better on that side of the line. And I understand tackle depth is hard to find, right? That is not an easy position to just go pick someone up off the street and have them play competent football. But if you really like Brandon Crenshaw Dixon as much as you've said you do, and that was the impression that we got when they kept him on the 53, not once, but twice at the end of camp. I wouldn't hate if JC Latham does have to miss a significant amount of time to just give him a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, but I think it keeps going back to, yes, they like him, but they like him as a developmental prospect.
Yeah.
So it's still, there's still a lot more that has to come with it. They're seeing a raw product, and it's like you see that car that's not in the best shape, but you're like, man, I know if I do this, this, and this, that thing's gonna be running. But I'm
Yeah,
not
that
ready to take it out on the strip yet. We're gonna keep putting it together to get it out there. I think that's in essence where they are with Crenshaw Dixon. So I wouldn't imagine him being active or out there. You never know, but I don't think it's likely.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's like that old meme of doesn't work but could be fun to fix. I think that's
Hmm.
kind of what they feel like with a lot of these tackles. But Crenshaw Dixon obviously younger and can be a developmental piece. Back to Blake Hance just for a second. Like I the Titans have done this a couple times, and I think they made the right decision with Peter Skoronski keeping him at guard even when the tackles were struggling. Of saying, you know what, this is our plan for Peter Skoronski. We're not going to mess up his development just because our tackles aren't very good. But with Blake Hance, when he's already a reserve offensive lineman, yeah, maybe he's better on the interior, but would it hurt to give him a chance at tackle? We saw last year with the Chiefs, like they moved one of their best interior offensive linemen in Joe Tooney and said, you're going to play left tackle for us because we have no other options. Blake Hance it's not going to hurt the rest of your line by putting him at right tackle. I don't get why that isn't being considered as more of an option.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why it isn't being considered as more of an option. It is something that you thought. I thought going into last week that there was a chance that he started. I figured it
Yeah.
would be a JUCO after Udo on half of his snaps gave up pressures, but I wasn't sure. And I think when you look at what they have going on now, it can't get much worse. And so I would be willing to experiment with some different things, just not with a guy that I'm working to develop. Now, if it's a guy like Hance, that's a different situation.
Yeah, I think that would make more sense than a Brandon Crenshaw Dixon. But at this point, it's just like you got to exhaust your options because it just hasn't been good enough on that right side. And obviously, the hope is for the Titans that J.C. Latham is back sooner rather than later. We've seen before, TD, that these offensive lines sometimes take time to gel, and what you see in week one isn't always what that group ends up being.
Yeah.
Do you still have belief that this five, when they're healthy as constructed, can end up being the type of offensive line that was expected? I mean, ESPN had this group ranked as the fifth best offensive line in the league. Not saying they have to be that, but can this group be an above average offensive line once everybody gets healthy and they get a few games under their belt?
Yeah, I think once everybody gets healthy, but again, your quarterback and receivers have to help that. And right now that's not really happening. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I think when you look at that, it's something that with time can get better, but it's collectively.
Yeah, I think this five, you see they have talent, and obviously couple of them have proven in the NFL that they can play at this level. It's just you've got to get it all working together. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport with you on this Thursday. Plenty to get to with TD. I have one more thought on the offensive line to wrap up hour number one. And again, we will give you your chance to talk to TD coming up at the top of the hour. So get your questions in. We've already got some good ones on the text line. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have any Titans, football, NFL, college football, Mets questions for TD, we'll get to all of them coming up in just about 20 minutes. Saturday's college football game of the week is Auburn versus Oklahoma at 2:30 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants and Circus Sportsbook Kentucky. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Yesterday, talking about the Titans' interior offensive line, what he's seen from them. Lloyd Cushenberry coming back from the torn Achilles. Peter Skoronski and Kevin Zeitler at the guard spots. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up 102.5. The game. I am out at Hermitage Golf Course. It is a gorgeous day. A little bit hot, but not a cloud in the sky for the third annual Pella Putt for Pink Golf Tournament, benefiting breast cancer recovery in action. Thrilled to be out here. Chase and Big Joe will be out here as well this afternoon. TD back at our Busy Bee studios. TD, couple final thoughts on the offensive line before we move on. I do want to give some recognition to Peter Skoronski because I think he has done exactly what everyone hoped from him through 2 weeks, and that is take the next step. Like Peter Skoronski, he has done a really nice job of showing that he can be a top-tier guard in this league, which is, I mean, when you take a guard 11th overall, that's what you expect him to be. Maybe it's taken a year or two longer than you would have hoped, but it's good to see him establishing himself as one of the better interior offensive linemen across football.
Yeah, he is establishing himself as that, and I think that's a good thing. You need that. The quickest way from one point to the other is a straight line. So if you could defend that and make it harder, then it's good. You just still need the rest of the offensive line to elevate their game, and there's different reasons, right? You look at Lloyd Cushenberry, he's working back from the Achilles, right? I mean, he missed a lot of time. He's not 100% himself, and I think J.C. Latham is hurt, and Kevin Zeitler. That's an area where I think, that's something that could get better. And it does need to get better. And they have to figure those things out because the offensive line is where it starts.
Yeah, I think with Cushenberry and Zeitler, you mentioned the Achilles for Cushenberry is obviously going to be a factor for a while here. I mean, that offensive line is probably one of the positions where it takes a little bit longer to get readjusted on that Achilles because you do have to anchor on that, and that flexes the Achilles. I'm sure it takes time to trust that. With Kevin Zeitler, I haven't really noticed Zeitler being an issue outside of a couple of uncharacteristic penalties for a guy with his kind of experience and pedigree on that side of the line.
Yeah, I mean, you still need more from Zeitler. He had a couple of bad plays I know that he would like to bring back. So that's something. And the bottom line, they just have to be better. And
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing as they continue to play together. Maybe that'll help. I don't know, but the whole thing is it's not good right now, and that's especially when you're dealing with the tackles.
To wrap up this conversation and kind of bring it all together, it's not good right now. And you have Bill Callahan, who is a great offensive line coach. He has done enough in his career that despite what is happening right now, you can't take anything away from him. He is one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. Why is it not working here is the question. And, injuries are part of it. Personnel is part of it. But you felt like heading into this year that you had the guys that Bill Callahan could work with and turn into a really good unit. And it still hasn't happened. Do you think it's just a matter of time before he gets these guys playing well? Or is it just something where it's not going to work out here and we just kind of got to be okay with that, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know if it's, hey, be okay with them not being good, because you never want to look at it that way. There has to be a next step that they could take. And right now, I mean, not having JC Latham there is really what the issue is, right? And obviously, week one, he was out there and they gave up 11 sacks or 6 sacks rather, excuse me. 11 in through 2 games. Not good. But again, it goes back to it's not all on the offensive line. And I think, Cam Ward's willingness to accept responsibility from it. You pointed out one of the plays where Chig was open. He saw him there. He didn't throw it. Is that the offensive line or is that the quarterback? You know what I mean? So this is what the main problem is. There's different reasons on almost every different sack. That's really the biggest problem.
Yeah. And it is an offense problem. Like, I think that's a really good point that you've made. Like, it's not just the offensive line. Has the offensive line been good enough? Absolutely not. But Cam Ward, Brian Callahan had the quote earlier this week of, saying he's a hunter and he wants to hunt for the big plays. He's got to start taking the layups too. And I know that he said that he's not worried about his completion percentage, and drops have certainly hurt that. But you do have to take what the defense gives you a little bit. And I know he's a gunslinger, and the reason you drafted him is because of the big playability. That is what made him special,
Mm-hmm.
was the ability to make those off-script plays and create something out of nothing. But to be a good quarterback in this league, a big part of it is just taking what's available to you from the defense. And I think he has to be more willing to do that. Not that he can't do it, but he has to be more willing to do it moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that's really what it is. And the willingness to like you mentioned earlier, he was hunting for plays down the field, and he had one right in front of him. And I asked him specifically about that yesterday, and he admitted to having to work through the reads and take those check downs underneath, because those are there, and it's a profit, right? And if you could make a couple dollars, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yep.
You don't always have to hit the home run to use baseball. Like, you could have some singles that will eventually score a run, and I think that's the thing that he's learning to adjust and understand.
Yeah, and there is a silver lining to what he's done in that area too, is that he isn't forcing the ball to take those shots. It's leading to more sacks because he's not pulling the trigger on those. But so far, no interceptions for Cam Ward. There really hasn't been a throw where you're like, yeah, he really put the ball in harm's way there. But that is leading to more sacks because he's not pulling the trigger on those plays. I think it's a full offense problem, and you need the offensive line to help Cam Ward, but Cam Ward also has to help the offensive line a little bit more. We had Adam from Portland call in, our good friend TD, on Monday, and I was saying about the touchdown pass from Cam Ward that I love to see that. I'd love to see him do just some more regular quarterback things too. And, Adam was not happy about that. But I think that's the biggest thing for Cam Ward's development right now is you got to start to see him do the easy things, the regular things that you need a quarterback to do in order to help you win football games.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Hey, those, like the touchdown, those are plays that you want, but also make the plays that are there for you. Make the plays, like the easy plays, those are good too, because they stack up into something big, right? You take those short throws, the DBs they start biting, right? The safeties start looking for that under stuff, and now you could double move, or you have that clear out, and the safety keeps running with the clear out because you got the dig underneath. There's gonna be a time where the safety is gonna leave the clear out and then go and come down on the dig, and you bombs over Baghdad over top of them, and it's a big play. So you have to. It's setting it up. It's just like the jab that you use the jab to set up position, for whatever power punch you're going to follow up with. That's just how it works.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey is on the line. Wanted to talk Titans. Trey, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, how y'all doing today? What's up, TD?
What's going on?
Hey, TD, I just want to say, I call in a lot, and we talk about technique and tangible skills and stuff like that. And I just, I know that you're out there every day and everything, and you see how they're operating and stuff like that. But how bad is the technique? And is this something that, as far as you on the last level of this is something that's supposed to be taught in like Pee-wee, 8th grade. You got grown men out there. We're still talking about technique. TD, how bad is it? And how bad is this team? I love y'all. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
I always love his outro. That thank you. It's like you're hanging on to it.
Yeah.
I think technique isn't the issue. I think you see that more like with the O-line to me. That's probably the position where technique is, and obviously quarterback, but I mean, you have guys like Ward that could, hey, you don't have to step into every throw. So sometimes the technique isn't right, but the result still comes. But I think when you look at the offensive line, there are times where just exploding off the ball into your drop. Like that doesn't have, you look at that first sack, um, that's what happened to Ojukwu. Like he didn't,
Yep.
it looked like he didn't get back into his drop quick enough, and Byron Young just got up on him and then just, dipped the shoulder and ran around him. So it's not perfect on every one. I think really offensive line, most of the times when you see a sack, especially like if it's a guy running free at the quarterback, there was some type of breakdown in technique. And it's something that they work on. I mean, when we were able to watch full practice and even during individual period, like Bill Callahan, he has his own, I call it Callywood. You know what I mean? He has his own corner
with
over
Olga
there
and
with
Bertha.
Olga and Bertha. He has the 5-man sled. He has ropes. He has bungees. I mean, the dude has everything over there. So it's not for a lack of effort. You know what I mean? They're focusing on technique, but something isn't always going through, and it's not happening consistently.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to text or call, please do now. It is time to talk to TD. Your chance to talk to Turron Davenport. Ask him any question you may have. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. You can text or call. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you on this Thursday morning, hour number 2, coming up after this. You're on Next Man Up, 1025 The Game. Hour on this Thursday. Next man up, 1025. The game. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. I am out here at gorgeous Hermitage Golf Course for the third annual Pella Putt for Pink Golf Tournament. About to get underway in about an hour, benefiting breast cancer recovery in action. Turron is back at the Brizzy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Starting off hour number 2, it is your time, our audience, chance to talk to TD. You can text or call 615-737-1025. If you have any questions for Turron Davenport, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. TD, we got a couple on the text line to start with here. Wes in Clarksville asked the question, and this is obviously the big question going through Titans fan base right now. How many losses in a row before you think they pulled the plug? And I think that is kind of the thought process here is you're 0-2. Is there an O and blank where Brian Callahan ends up not being the head coach here any longer?
Wow, that's a tough question. Because that Patriots game just sits on there as like a big,
right.
It's coming, and it's like when they tell you this, like there's going to be a storm this weekend, and you go to the grocery store, you just stock up. I think week 7, if they go 0-7, Chad Brinker, Burke Nihill, they're going to really have to, talk Amy Adams Strunk off of the "you're fired" mindset. I would say that, and especially if that loss goes really badly. So, I mean, when you look at this game right here is a very important game for them. It's the first division game. I think it's an opportunity to win. Now, granted, Daniel Jones, has the offense humming. He's not perfect, but he's doing enough to win. So we will say that. But I think this is a game that's winnable for them. You look at the Texans next week in Houston, the Raiders, that's another game. So they need to. These are games that they could win. If they go into, if they come out of week 7 0-7, there's a very good chance that the plug is pulled.
Yeah, we'll talk about this a little more later, but this week feels like a big one for Brian Callahan. You're about to go on a 3-week-long road trip, which it's not easy to win on the road in the NFL. And although I don't think any of those teams are world beaters, like it's not like you're going to Buffalo, to Baltimore, to Philly, but you're playing on the road against capable teams over the next 3 weeks. You got a home game against the divisional team that I get they're 2-0, but are the Colts one of the top 10 talented teams in the league? Probably not. So this is an opportunity for Brian Callahan to show that he has this thing moving in the right direction. We haven't seen it so far. If he can, I need a win this week from Brian Callahan that isn't just a win that you're like, well, the Colts kind of gave us that one. Like Callahan and the Titans need to go take a win this weekend and prove that they can do it because, again, you look back to last year, the only really impressive win from the Titans out of their 3 was probably the Texans game. On the road against the Texans, that was an impressive win. The other ones, Miami with Tyler Huntley at quarterback and an overtime win against the Patriots, doesn't really move the needle for me. I need a win where you feel impressed by what the Titans did on Sunday.
Yeah, and it has to be one of those ones where you're like, okay, you know what? From whistle to whistle, opening, kick to the end, like they whooped that team's behind. That's the type of win that they really need. And it's one of those ones that could spring them into something. Because that's the other thing you look at, this schedule, the way it is, you beat the Colts, you get some confidence going into Houston. They've beaten Houston before. Houston is clearly a more talented team, but it's a divisional game. Anything could go. You get 2 in a row going into Arizona. Who knows? And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A convincing win can do so much. And if you could just feel the difference in the building after a win than a loss. Like, it's so much different because I mean, usually by the time Wednesday, Thursday comes around, whatever the result was kind of, you know, it salted away. But there were times last year I remember where there were L's and guys were still salty in the locker room. You know what I mean? But then after the Patriots, some of the wins like the Dolphins won. I mean, look, man, you'd have thought this team was about to go on a 10-game win streak. The way these guys were feeling themselves. So it is something that's human nature. When you're successful, you want to kind of load the wagon, so to speak. So yeah, a win here would be critical for them.
Yeah, I mean, when you've lost, what is it now, 9 in a row, 8 in a row since
Yep.
that Texans win last year, it's becoming to the point where you got to see one go down. It's like a shooter in basketball. Lately, they're looking like Shaq at the free throw line. You got to see one go down. And we'll see if maybe this week can be the opportunity for the Titans to get one through the hoop. Let's go back to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, this is your chance to talk to TD, 615-737-1025. You can text or call. Ed on the text line asks, TD, to the naked eye, it seems like our tight ends are struggling with their blocking assignments. And also, why hasn't Helm been used more?
I like the Helm question, and because you saw like in the first quarter, like, it seemed like he was going to be involved. He had the catch that I thought was a catch that got mysteriously overturned, and the other one. I think that he's another part of helping the offensive line. Right? We talk about scheme, and again, look, because I know like in the group chat, apparently I'm some type of Brian Callahan defense attorney. No, that's not the case. Like if what's going on is being explained, that's I'm just explaining what had happened. But just the same in this, they have to do more things to make sure that a guy like Gunnar Helm is used, right? Why not use him more in the middle of the field? You know what I mean? Teams, are going to begin to focus on stopping the run, play action, pop pass to him. There's different things that you could do, right, with guys like Gunnar Helm, with guys like Tyler Lockett. Lockett has been open, and that's why I asked Cam Ward yesterday about, taking some of those checkdowns and not always going deep. You know what I mean? So there's a mixture of the two as far as the guys being involved in the short passing game, but also there's times where you could get them more involved. I mentioned that the motion and having, really run a slant or those types of things. There's more that could be done, and I think it has to happen.
Yeah, I think there's always multiple reasons for guys not being involved. And I think you're right that Cam Ward sometimes looks off the easy throw to try and make a more difficult one. And that's something that he's going to have to work on, taking those layups. We talked about it earlier. And, it's might take a couple of weeks for him to start realizing that, like, hey, if you've got a tight end on a drag route wide open, take the 7 yards instead of taking a sack where you end up putting your team behind the chains. Last one here for this segment, and then we'll take a quick break, get back to your questions. Robert, I believe we talked about this last week, TD, but Robert asked, just curious, is Will Levis around during practice of the building? Has anyone talked to him recently? I believe he's still in California, right?
Yeah, from what I understand, he's in California.
Yes. So I believe Will Levis not around the team currently, but who knows? Maybe we'll see him back in the building at some point. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Again, it is your opportunity to talk to TD. Get your questions in for Turron, Davenport, 615-737-1025. You can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Are you going to the Titans and Colts game this Sunday? Then you should stop by John Bon Jovi's before you head to Nissan Stadium and join 1025 The Game for the pregame show with Big Joe, Derek Mason, and Chris Sanders from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Pregame show is brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Old National Bank, Circus Sportsbook Kentucky, and Tennessee Brewworks. More Talk to TD coming up after this. Also, Andrew Allegretta from Vanderbilt football going to join the show at 11 o'clock. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. The Commodores return to First Bank Stadium this Saturday to take on Georgia State. Pregame begins at 5 o'clock on 102.5 The Game with kickoff at 6:30. Vanderbilt football is brought to you by Gary Force Acura, Jimmy Kelly Steakhouse, and Smoky Mountain Tops. Again, we will be joined by the play-by-play voice of Vanderbilt football, Andrew Allegretta, coming up at 11 o'clock to get ready for that game against Georgia State. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly with you on this Thursday. It is Talk to TD, so get your questions in. 615-737-1025. You can text or call with questions for Turron Davenport. We have an interesting one here from 7988. And actually, I don't know the answer to this, TD. Does Cam Ward use VR to work on, scenarios and stuff like that?
Yeah, he does use it. I eventually am going to do a story on that. Actually, Easton Freeze did one, I think before camp started, he did one. But I'll be doing one as well. I want to dig into that a little bit. So to answer the question, yes.
That is interesting stuff, because I know that's becoming more of a trend across all sports, really. Like a lot of MLB teams and college teams, they have like these VR labs where you can go in and try and take live at bats. And so I'm sure that is helpful for a guy like Cam Ward to be able to go through these situations, make his reads, and it helps him be more prepared for game day.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think, it's something that it's the new wave. You know what I mean? It's what you're seeing now, terminology or technology rather, making its way into sports, and it's just continuing to make it better.
We have a non-sports one here for you, TD. Justin from Greenbrier says, I'll give you one that's non-football. What is your favorite thing about autumn?
It's those crisp mornings. I love like waking up in the morning. Actually, Parker caught me doing it in the studio in between commercials. I like to get up in the morning, and I do like different movement exercises, and just standing in my driveway, just feeling that crisp air, and getting those exercises in, and then sitting down and drinking coffee, and just kind of taking in just the scenery. I love it, man. It's so exciting. And obviously the autumn is when football is really, the season is taking its shape. So that's something else to be really happy about. I love also, walking over the pedestrian bridge. I don't do it as much as I used to, but I used to just I would just sit there, smoke a cigar on the cutout where you don't interact with anybody, and just look over the city and just man, think about life, man. And those are the things that I love to do. And a part of that, like sitting there and looking over the city, is looking down and you see the trees and the different colors. It's beautiful, man, especially when you get on the first part of the bridge, on the Nissan Stadium side.
Right.
And as soon as you're going up, you'll see the elevator there, and just to the left of the elevator, all those trees and stuff is beautiful.
See, Jake, I thought he was making a tech talk in between the commercial break. I didn't know what he was doing.
Hey, man, when you get to be 49 years old and want to still be in solid shape, you got to do stuff like that.
I love it. No, I'm with you, TD. The first thing that comes to mind for me is definitely crisp fall mornings. And sadly, we are in second summer right now, and I'm sitting out here at Hermitage Golf Course. Again, it's a beautiful day. Like, I'm comfortable, but it is a little bit hot out here. I'm ready for those fall mornings. Quick story on the pedestrian bridge. I went to the Vikings preseason game, and at the bridge building, there was a wedding going on that night.
Yeah.
I was laughing at that. I'm like, man, those people must have been so disappointed when they came out with the preseason schedule. Because, I mean, you plan these weddings a year in advance, months in advance, well before the schedule comes out. And I'm sure that they scheduled this and had no idea there would be a Titans preseason game. And basically they'd have to watch all these people walking right past their wedding venue the entire time.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's not like the schedule didn't come out in advance, so you could definitely check it. But hey, at the end of the day, it's all a bunch of things going on right there. I do think it's cool when they do have the wedding venues there the weddings at that venue. It's pretty dope. But man, imagine having to fight with Titans fans for parking.
Right. I mean, I'm sure it's a cool place to get married, but yeah, having Titans fans walking up and down those stairs right next to your, I'm blanking on for some reason the reception after. Like, I'm sure that's not that's not fun for them. Anyway, back to questions from all of you. Again, it's time to talk to TD. Last call here, 615-737-1025. Justin from Smyrna asked TD, what has been, in your opinion, the main issue since Brian Callahan started in the second half struggles? They haven't really been able to score a ton in the second half. What have you seen that's really stymied the offense once you get past halftime?
I think the pressures, non-executing, those things are really the ones. To 3 and outs, penalties, right? Because you see them get a penalty on first down, and next it's 1st and 20 or 1st and 15, and it's like, all right, well, let's see what we could do. You run the ball, and we know what happens with that, or you try a pass play and it's incomplete, or you get a sack, and now it's 2nd and forever, and it's just so many different things. I'll just put it to you this way: they're not effectively staying on schedule. That's the biggest problem. You don't see that enough, and it leads to too many 3 and outs. And there's a variety of reasons why they're not on schedule.
Yeah, and it's just strange because the offense, I think, they've moved the ball pretty effectively, and they have gotten help from special teams. The starting field position, I think I saw, is like average is their own 42. Does that sound right? Like that's really good. So they've gotten themselves opportunities. They haven't been able to finish drives first. And I mean, Justin's right. In the second half, do they only have 6 points in the second half this year? Because it was 10-9 at halftime in Denver, and they scored 12 total. And then it was 13-10 at halftime, and they scored they have 9. They scored 6 against the Rams on Sunday. So 9 points in the second half, no touchdowns. But when you only have 1 touchdown, I guess it has to either be in the first half or the second half. 0797 says, TD, please tell me Chig is actually good. Such a cool dude. I just want him to stay a Titan. I mean, he's made some plays, but I don't know if they're sitting down at the negotiating table trying to knock out an extension right now.
Right. I don't think that's the case. But look, one thing that he's good at is yards after catch. You get him the ball quickly and you let him turn upfield and do something, chances are you're going to have a good result. I think that's really where the main thing lies with him. He's good in that you could move him around. He could, motion into a blocker as a fullback. There's a lot you could do with him. So
last one here for this segment of Talk to TD, 2657. This isn't really a question, but he says, it seems like other coaches adjust to us and our coaches have 0 second half adjustments. There's been a lot of talk about second half adjustments this week, TD. The clip circulating of Peyton Manning talking about how you don't really make adjustments at halftime. You go to the bathroom and you eat an orange slice and you head back out there. Like, is it really overblown that there's these big halftime adjustments that are made? Or is it more just a rolling adjustment based on drive by drive, what these teams are doing?
That's what it is. I mean, it's just funny thinking about it because it's like, what do you think they're doing when the offense is not on the field? Like, you think they're just, figuring out who they're going to ride home with after the game? No, they're looking at now. They can't, and I didn't realize this, but there's not as much access to different tracking things that other that media has for them. But I mean, obviously you got the touchpad, you got the still shots. They're looking at these things, and there's conversations going up and down from the press box, the coaches in the box, down to the players and back and forth. There's a lot of adjustments that's happening in game. They start as soon as guys come off the field. Like Cam Ward, and I talked to Brandon Allen about this. Cam Ward comes off the field. Brandon Allen's right there. Hey, what did you see? Why did you do that? You know what I mean? That conversation starts immediately, and it extends all the way up until, punt team is getting ready to go out, or, kickoff team because they gave up a point, so that's the way it works.
Yeah, I mean, they're bringing those iPads out and they're looking at things as they go. When you think about it, halftime in the NFL, it just isn't that long. It's 15 minutes. Like, there's not a whole lot of time for them to sit down and make large scale changes. Like, I'm sure that there are conversations being had between the coaches, and if there is something big, then they'll address it. But you're right. Like, the technology and where we are in the NFL, they're making those changes as soon as they get off the field.
Mhm.
So I don't think halftime adjustments are a little bit are there. It's a little bit overblown. 2657 says, well, Callie might be figuring out who to ride home with, it seems. Yeah. 615-737-1025. Another nice job by all of you out there on Talk to TD. Good stuff on your questions for Turron Davenport. If you have other ones, we'll try and get to them throughout the show, but we will move on. TD did his Whiteboard Wednesday yesterday, talking about the Colts first-round draft pick, Tyler Warren, and how the Colts have used him, how the Titans may be able to slow him down. We will talk about that coming up next. And again, Andrew Allegretta from Vanderbilt Football will join us for his weekly visit at 11 a.m. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly. DVD with Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan will be broadcasting live from 3 to 6 p.m. at Jimmy Kelly's Steakhouse tomorrow as they celebrate the opening of their all-new rooftop dining area and bar. It's also a great place to go before the big Vanderbilt game this Saturday night. More coming up here on Next Man Up, Thursday edition here on 102.5 The Game. The Blue Raiders will host Marshall this Saturday at Floyd Stadium at 6 p.m. Catch all of the action on Totally Hits 93.3 with coverage also available on the Totally Hits Nashville app and at totallyhitsnashville.com. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. I am out here at Hermitage Golf Course for the third annual Pella Putt for Pink Golf Tournament, benefiting breast cancer recovery in action. Great event, beautiful day. They're about to get going in just about 30 minutes. Chase and Big Joe will be taking over right here after me at noon. TD, you did your Whiteboard Wednesday yesterday, and you were looking specifically at Tyler Warren, the first-round pick for the Colts this year out of Penn State, and how they've been able to utilize him, get him open as a weapon for Daniel Jones. Titans in the past had been very good at taking away the tight ends. This year, you're looking at Cody Barton, some of the safeties trying to help out. How do you think the Titans match up with Tyler Warren, who obviously has gotten off to a good start to his NFL career?
Well, I think one good way to match up with him would be to be able to get Kevin Winston, in the mix, because I think he's a very good defender when it comes to an option, going against tight ends. But I mean, really, the main thing is just that they have to stay disciplined, and you'll see a lot of times where like he'll leak into the flat, and they'll just let him catch the ball and do something with it. There are other times where they use motion. This is a team that will use motion to set up leverage, and you really like that. That's something that a lot more coordinators are doing. So those are things where they'll motion the receiver to the outside of him. They'll motion him to the opposite side, and that gives him just pretty much a whole field to operate. It's a lot like how you used to see the Chiefs use Tony Gonzalez. You know what I mean? And they would use him like he's a number one receiver, right? And I'm not saying the Colts are doing that per se, but you do see some of those looks where they take advantage of that. So, I mean, the guy's a playmaker. I mean, he's someone you can line up out wide. You could, have him attached. You could have him flexed, and he's going to be effective all different ways. So this Titans secondary and the linebackers, they have to be ready for it. And there's other aspects too, and that's the big thing about what's going on in Indy. Like, everybody is getting involved, and everybody is getting missed too, because Daniel Jones has had a variety. He had A.D. Mitchell wide open deep last week and missed him. You know what I mean? Josh Downs has had some opportunities, but it is a matter of getting everybody involved.
Yeah, this Colts offense, the big story is that they haven't punted through 2 weeks. First team in the Super Bowl era to not punt through their first 2 games, although we had James Boyd, who covers the Colts for The Athletics, on yesterday, and he said that's a little bit of a skewed stat because they have gone for it on 4th down and not gotten it a couple of times. So, take that for what you will. But you mentioned it's a whole group effort from this Colts offense that, heading into the year, I had my doubts about whether this offense could be successful. Daniel Jones coming in at quarterback after leaving the Giants and spending some time with the Vikings last year. The wide receivers, Michael Pittman has been good in the league, but they didn't really have a star. I think Jonathan Taylor, obviously, he's the straw that stirs the drink for this team, leads the NFL in rushing, and I think he's starting to remind people that he was considered a top 3 running back in the league for a while there. Like, it was him and Derrick Henry at the top of the league back in 2020, 2021 when he first entered the NFL, and he's kind of getting back to that form through these first couple of weeks this season.
Man, Jonathan Taylor could tote that thing. And here's the thing that's so crazy about him is he's a guy that, not only is he he'll run through you, but he'll run away from you. And he's one of those ones, like, if you don't have gap discipline and you shoot the wrong one, that's a 60-yard touchdown. You know what I mean? And just to kind of use some of the tools that we have at Next Gen, ESPN, we have a deal with Next Gen to where we get different numbers and different insights leading up to the game. So here's one right here. Jonathan Taylor has taken 29 of his 43 carries from 11 personnel. So if they're in one tight end, one back, chances are they're running the ball. And he has gained 197 yards on those rushes. That's 70 more than any other player. And then he has a 48.3 rushing success rate from 11 personnel compared to 28.6 with more running backs or tight ends on the field. And he's produced 4 of his 5 explosive runs from 11 personnel. So that'll let you know right there.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor he's a focal point of this offense, and the Titans are going to have to be ready. You're right. It's like you don't want to shoot the wrong gap. We saw that last year. Was it Kenneth Murray shooting the wrong gap? I feel like that's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, he did once, and then the rookie backers did at the rookies at the time.
So we'll see if the Titans are able to hem him in on Sunday. But Daniel Jones, I don't know whether to believe it quite yet with Jones this year with the Colts. It's like, yeah, he's looked fine through 2 weeks, and obviously the Colts are 2-0. You could argue about the merit of that last win where the Broncos kind of gave it to him with some help from the refs. But I don't know whether to believe that Daniel Jones is the next version of what we've seen from, all the way back to Ryan Tannehill as a reclamation after leaving the Dolphins, and Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold and Geno Smith. Like, is he the next one of those, or is this just a hot start for Daniel Jones with the Colts?
I think it's a hot start, but even within the start, like there are some plays where it's like, man, you should have had that.
Yeah.
So let's not just say like everything's perfect. You know what I mean? There is room for improvement. I think it's similar to some of the other reclamation projects. I never really was a big Daniel Jones advocate. There's a lot of good with him, but I think there's more bad. I just am not one after 2 games. And games in which he's played solid, not been a true absolute difference maker. I'm not one to say, hey, he's re-arrived and hey, this is a dude that should be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. I heard Charles Robinson was on with Robbie and Rexroad today, and there was the conversation around, if he keeps playing like this, does he get the Colts to the negotiating table for a long-term deal? And I can't imagine that ending up working out for the Colts. Like, I think Indy wants to draft a quarterback, and maybe if you win the division this year, which guess what, you're 2 games up on the favorites in the Texans at this point, and the Jaguars seem to have their own problems. Like, there's a chance that they're not in position to draft a quarterback, and maybe you do have to stick with a guy like Daniel Jones. But I don't see the Colts wanting to do that. I think they brought in Daniel Jones just as an insurance policy if Anthony Richardson continued to not show growth in his 3rd year. And it might be a good thing for Titans fans if Daniel Jones keeps playing well, because they might lock themselves into a deal that doesn't end up working out for them.
Yeah, look, I think Daniel Jones is going to have this team in a spot where if they want to draft a quarterback, they're going to have to trade up for one. Right. And I mean, you look at what he did against the Broncos. The Broncos are a good defense. He played very effective football against the Broncos, and he did a solid job there. But to me, I think he could put the Colts in a situation where they're like, man, we can't really let this guy go, but at the same time, you know what I mean? It was kind of like the Tannehill situation, after that playoff run, and after winning back-to-back AFC South, or not back-to-back, but after winning their first AFC South title, was that 2020?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's the situation he's going to put them in, where he's playing just good enough to say, hey, we got to go ahead and sign him.
4405 on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, as a Saints fan, don't believe in just 2 weeks. Trust me, last year is the perfect example. And I did remember that they lit up the league for the first 2 weeks. I didn't remember it was this big. They outscored their opponents 91-29 in the first 2 weeks last year, beating Carolina and Dallas, and then proceeded to lose 7 straight games after that. So, early season can be a liar. We'll see what the Colts look like on Sunday when they come in here to Nissan Stadium. We'll continue to preview that game. And again, Andrew Allegretta from Vanderbilt Football going to join us coming up at the top of the hour, as Vandy, ranked 20th in the country, 3-0 this year after beating South Carolina on Saturday. They get ready to face Georgia State this weekend. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly with you on this Thursday. We'll wrap up hour number 2 after this here on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, the game finishing up hour number 2. I am out here at the 3rd annual Pella Putt for Pink Golf Tournament at Hermitage Golf Course. Beautiful day for golf, and the tournament getting ready to tee off at the top of the hour. So hope everybody out here hits them straight. Again, we'll be joined by Andrew Allegretta coming up at 11 o'clock. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. TD, talk about how the Titans can slow down this Colts offense on Sunday. And we got a little bit of good news yesterday after practice. Last week, it was J.C. Latham breaking his own news to the media that he would not play on Sunday. This week, Tavondre Sweat hinted that he will play on Sunday, and that is huge for this Titans defense.
Yeah.
You know, we saw Jeffrey Simmons not quite as effective on Sunday against the Rams. I think part of that is he didn't have his running mate out there. And going against an elite guard like Quentin Nelson, going to be nice to have Big Meatloaf out there next to him in the middle of that line.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you look at this team with Sweat on the field last year, the difference was like 2 yards less per run, on average. So you do have that. And I was surprised because I was just trying to give, Tavondre is very, it's kind of, you never really truly know what you're going to get from him. Like sometimes he'll be a little more talkative. Other times you're like, come on, bro, I need a little bit more. But this time he was talking, I'm like, hey, what is it that you have to get in order to get back onto the field? And I realized what I was asking. So I shifted it to practice. And he was like, like I got some good work today. I feel really good. And I said, okay, well, what has to happen for you to be able to get into the game? And he was like, I'm playing on Sunday. And I was like, okay. Okay. So back-to-back weeks we had guys kind of declare what's up with them. And I mean, look, I get it. He wants to be out on the field. You know what I mean? And if he feels that he can do it, I'm sure he's going to lobby for it. It's just you got all that weight on that ankle. If it's not right, then but this team is going to need him because, like you said, man, Jonathan Taylor, that dude he's something special.
Yep.
He's something special, and then they play action off of it. And when you have a guy like Alec Pierce, that's able to stretch the field the way he does. This game last year, that was Alec Pierce gave L'Jarius Sneed all he wanted. Now, of course, that was after he took the helmet to the thigh, but
right.
Even still, that's going to be something to watch. And I mentioned Pierce because he stretches the field and it makes it harder to stack the box, et cetera, against the run. And it's like Jonathan Taylor, you almost have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the last game L'Jarius Sneed played last year. And you're right, it was after he took the helmet to the thigh, but there were a couple times Alec Pierce
Robbie and Rex Road.
On the Friday edition of Robbie and Rex Road, we'll be joined by Turron, Davenport to look ahead to the Titans and the Colts coming up in Nissan Stadium this weekend.
Weekday mornings at 6. Your sports live here on 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville Sports Network.
ElectronicExpress.com. We've got that.
The wait is over. The largest sports book in Kentucky is now open at the Mint Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs. Feel the rush of every play in a venue built for sports fans. Catch all your favorite games with an 80-foot screen, stadium-style seating, and live daily broadcasts from VSiN, the sports betting network. Plus, download the Circa Sports Kentucky mobile app today and start betting like a pro anywhere in Kentucky. The largest sports book in Kentucky, Circa Sports, is now open at the Mint Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Paper items and others health plays not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at borders.com apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are FDA approved and unregistered trademarks of Novo Nordisk AES, which is not affiliated with Hims and Hers.
Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At 4hers.com/radio, you can access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored to you. These include oral medication kits and compounded GLP-1 injections, the same active ingredient that's in Ozempic and Wegovy. Through Hers, pricing for oral
Somebody in the chat saying the sound was gone or something.
$65 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatments that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help from Hers. Get started at 4hers.com/radio to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's 4hers.com/radio. FORHERS.com/radio.
Hey guys, Big Joey from Busy Bee. Listen, National Grandparent Day is September the 8th. So we're celebrating all month by extending a free Beehive membership to grandparents of current Beehive Club members. Now, you must currently have a Beehive Club membership already to qualify. And listen, I'm a member. I'd love for you to be a member as well. It is simply fantastic. Busy Bee, the only way to go.
Willie Gonick here from Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Summer is winding down, and fall will be here before we know it. My friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville have amazing special deals right now, and they're just in time to replace those old, drafty windows for the cold winter months. I endorse Pella because they're the highest quality windows and doors, the most trusted brand, and they improve the value of your home over all the others. So go with the experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Visit PellaNashville.com for more information.
Mondays were made for Macero. Big screens, posters, and all the football action. Kids on the kickoffs. This is how Macero does game night. Macero Football Mondays in 12 South. Don't miss a snap.
Ponzi Law is the only personal injury law firm with the Crash Cam Network, powered by Roadproof, capturing accident footage on highways across Middle Tennessee. Injured in an accident? Call Ponzi Law. We offer a no-fee guarantee, and for over 30 years, we've been helping injured people just like you. We've been voted best law firm multiple times. I'm Michael Ponzi, and we want to hear your story. Call us today at 615-244-4321. Ponzi Law, justice for all.
Hey, want to tell Middle Tennessee about your business? Email us at together@cromwellmedia.com. Live on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Hi, I'm Parker Shelley with your Game Center update, brought to you by Ponzi Law. Injured in an accident? Call Ponzi Law at 615-244-4321. Ponzi Law, justice for all. The Tennessee Titans are gearing up to host the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday in a divisional rivalry. Head coach Brian Callahan spoke to the media yesterday. Here's what he said the keys to success will be versus the Colts defense.
You have to see the post snap. You know, there's a lot of things that change in the time between the lining up on the ball and snapping the ball. Pressure package is multiple. He's got every pressure, so what they are for us this week, you got to be ready for a multitude of things, and the quarterbacks are ready to handle those, whether they're protection checks or they're quick throws or quick answers, those things. There's a lot on the quarterback to manage when you play a defense like this. I think Cam's up to the task, and he'll be prepared for it.
In giant news in the world of college football, the NCAA announced Wednesday that the spring transfer portal window will officially be eliminated, setting up a lone transfer portal window in January. Tune in tonight on 94.9 The Fan as the Nashville Sounds take on the Louisville Bats. pregame is set for 5:20 p.m. with the first pitch at 5:35. For the Game Nashville Sports Network, I'm Parker Kelly.
For more, log on to theGameNashville.com. Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network. From the Mississippi Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WBUC HD2 Laverne. Your sports live here.
On the right side to Forsberg.
We are the Game Nashville Sports Network on 102.5 and 106.3.
A Cromwell media station.
New voice.
I can't imagine it's not going to be better.
Big energy. Bold opinions.
I understand optimism, but don't lie to us.
This is Next Man Up with Jake Lyman.
10 wins is an SEC school.
Your sports live here on 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Final hour, Next Man Up, 102.5. Again, Jake Lyman out here at the third annual Pella Putt for Pink Golf Tournament at Hermitage Golf Course. Registration just opened up, getting ready for a 1 p.m. shotgun start on what is a beautiful day here at the course. Turron Davenport is back at the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We open up our third hour of the show as we go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt football, joins us for his weekly visit. Andrew, as always, thanks for taking the time. Congratulations on the win. What's going on?
Not much. So for you guys, outside of, well, Jake hanging out at the golf course.
Yes, out here at the golf course, talking lots of Titans, but excited to talk some Vanderbilt. They're winning. They're 3-0. Commodores with a big win on Saturday night in Columbia, 31-7. I think heading into that game, everybody knew that it was anybody's game. Vandy was only, I think, a 3-point underdog, but to go in there and blow that team out and win by 24, shut them out in the second half. How impressive was that to see from Bud Lee's bunch on Saturday night?
I think the past 2 weeks have been pretty impressive, especially the physicality of the offensive and defensive line. I think we talked about it a bit last week, guys. The transfer portal is a wonderful addition. You can kind of allocate your resources as you like. And Vanderbilt certainly decided to allocate a decent chunk of its resources to upgrading the offense and defensive line. They put a focus there. You can see from the number of additions that they had. That's great work. Martin Simmons, and back here, Hill, a little bit, is proved in it. They've been able to be very physical with back-to-back power 4 teams. And I think that in and of itself is one of the ones.
You now come back home, and the question with these types of games is always, is there going to be a letdown? You're coming off an emotional road win against South Carolina, coming back home to face a Group of 5 team. I would think you wouldn't have to worry about this week. I would guess that this team is pretty locked in on Georgia State, especially with what happened last year.
You would think so. First, talked about it again at his weekly press conference. The fact that it's not just the way that they played last year versus Georgia State, it's the way that they prepared. He felt like there was some markers that were made of last year's Georgia State game on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday that didn't equal a team that was ready to win on Saturday. So I think more than anything, you've got a team that's been able to prepare as well as it needs to on a pretty consistent level. And I still think, regardless of last year, previous years, this is a pretty mature group. I keep going back to what David Tully told me in fall camp when he came out and he watched that this is a mature group. They know what they're supposed to do. And it does feel like this group has continued to do that for this beginning chunk of the season. I was expecting the season to evolve and seasons get difficult. There's moments that happen in seasons that challenge your maturity and your resolve. But right now you've got like a really focused, really mature, really confident group. So, Georgia State, Utah State, Alabama, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, it does feel like this more than anything is just focused on executing what it needs to do to win the ball game.
And there's a standard, when you're an SEC team, if you're facing anybody outside of your conference, let alone Georgia State, it's like, hey, we expect to win that game. So I say all that to say, how much do you think this organization, this program has taken a step towards establishing that as a standard, whereas it's the expectation and it's a total letdown if a Georgia State beats them?
Good question. Well, there's probably a bunch of different ways I can go with that. I mean, I do think that I see it focusing on this group of guys. And the NFL and college have a lot of similarities. I think the key difference is the way that rosters evolve from season to season. Not to say that NFL doesn't do that, but you can have a guy kind of anchor teams and programs for a long, long time. In college, that kind of twists and turns a little bit more. So this specific collection of guys is super focused. A lot of that is team positive. A lot of that is the image that Barkley has been able to build. A lot of it is a combination of everything all at once. And I feel like I'm giving a bit of a coach answer. I see it with this group on a day in and day out basis. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in years anyway. But right now, this team not only believes that it should be Georgia State, it believes it should be everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that confidence in and of itself, it's going to be challenging. But I just feel it every day in and around that practice.
I love that. And a part of having that standard and that expectation is having stars. And we obviously know Diego Pavia is a star, but could we see one in the making, a Martell Height? I mean, is there a possibility where, he could start getting to play both sides of the ball more consistently?
I think they feel pretty good about where he's at on both sides of the ball. Mark addressed this in his press conference where he's not concerned about the number of snaps. And I think he's looking forward to Martell impacting the game as well. Of course, last year he led the SEC in return yardage. And the way that he has kind of controlled games, there hasn't been just rules of opportunity. I don't know that play count is going to elevate his son moving forward. I think what you would see from Martell is a comfort as a wide receiver. I think there was a play, he may have been called for legal block, which is kind of the way that the play evolved. And he went wrong when he couldn't go. I can't quite know the specifics. But my point is, like, his comfort out there as a wide receiver, he's going to see the play, he's going to know the play, he's going to see everything develop around him, which I think has the opportunity to allow him to be more impactful as a wide receiver. He's been out there, he's been making catches, but as he gets more comfort in that position, which he did play in high school, it's not a brand new position for him to play both ways in high school like most of these guys. I think the game's slowing down for him in that position might allow him to make more explosive plays. It doesn't mean his snap count is going to go up. I just think he's got an opportunity to perform a little bit better as he settles in.
Andrew, I have a question that I have to ask just for me because I was very confused on Saturday night. They hit the knock Lenore Sellers out of the game. Langston Patterson gets ejected for targeting on that play. Luckily, it was before halftime, so they'll be available this weekend against Georgia State. Did Mark or you ever get any kind of explanation on why that was called targeting? Because at least from what I was watching on TV, he didn't lead with the crown of the helmet, and that is a key marker of something being called targeting.
Yeah, so I thought it was targeting in real time. In part because a quarterback is a defensive player, and when you have a defensive player, you don't need to have crown of the helmet. Okay. You can make forcible contact to the head and the neck with pretty much anything, and it can be considered targeting. Now, there's also the aspect of launch and all of that sort of stuff. You have to go onto the SEC website, and they kind of split up between defensive player and not a defensive player. If you're not defensive, the only form of targeting that you can get is lowering the head and crown of the helmet, which is 6 inches from the apex of the helmet if you want to get super technical. Langston wasn't malicious in any of it. And I think I've talked to Mark and talked to others about like the teachability of that moment for Langston. It's hard. He put his hands up and he was trying to block the pass of Sellers. And it just happened that the follow through of his motion took him helmet to helmet, face mask to face mask with the Lord. And as the quarterback, you're dealing with the quarterback, the rest of the face mask to face mask, forcible, anything above the head neck, you're going to get a flag. And honestly, I kind of was a little surprised it didn't happen quicker. I know Shane Beamer was too. I don't think that Lang did do anything malicious. And some of it is like getting into the nitty gritty, like definition of like how do you define sports? What's your definition of the word launch? Um, it was definitely not egregious in any means, but at the quarterback position, I don't know. It just felt like it was going to happen. And so again, really, no harm, no foul. Ultimately, for like back this week, and best of luck to Sellers. Nobody wants a player like that for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I always find, like with a team like Vanderbilt that's turning the corner and gaining respect, when you have a win, like they're always looking for reasons to cheapen it. So I'm going to ask you, this is a win that came without Sellers playing the full game. Why isn't that a cheapened win, even though this team didn't have their number one option the whole game?
I feel like all the algorithms are waiting for me to say something quickly. First off, I think number one, first and foremost, is the way that Vanderbilt physically controlled that game. The offense was moving well for South Carolina with Sellers, but then they came away with a turnover. Coach Lee, Coach Gregory have done a great job making adjustments, both against Virginia Tech and against South Carolina. So number one for me is the physicality that Vanderbilt offers in South Carolina on the line of scrimmage with safety in the third and fourth quarter. The second point, if we want to kind of go down this path, is like they brought in a 47-year-old to play quarterback, and I did usually the Luke Doty and Jordan Hopkins and knows that offense. So he doesn't run the same offense, obviously, as Sellers, not the same player as Sellers. But you make calls and stop the coordinator like Shula with a full confidence that this guy knows where he's supposed to go, find the right calls, that sort of stuff. He was the starting quarterback in South Carolina in 2021 when Vandy went there. So, is it the same? No. I mean, like, if we lose Diego Pavia for a half, like, we're not the same team. And I think everybody gets that. Like, Sellers is just outrageous talent. We all want to act like the MVP. I think more than anything, it's just the physicality that Vandy brought and the fact that, yeah, there's a pretty experienced quarterback that stepped back. And who knows what the final score would have been. But we played the game that was in front of us, and Vandy certainly dominated it.
Last one for you here, Andrew. We've seen Theo Vaughn on the sideline throughout all three games so far, and the story this week of him wanting to go on a date with Diego Pavia's mom and all this. Like, how have you seen the marketability of this program increase throughout this great run with Pavia? And obviously Diego gets all the headlines, but it just feels like Vanderbilt football is the cool thing to be around right now, whether it's Theo Vaughn, Jelly Roll, Nate Bargatze, who obviously is a lifelong Vanderbilt fan, but it just feels like the time is now to get on board with Vanderbilt.
I don't mean to be like the silly. I feel like the person I should sit around an asset to is TV. Like I'm around it all of the time. So the algorithm screws me Vandy stuff all the time on my phone. So that honestly, I'd be curious his perspective on like how he has seen and felt that for over 12 months.
Yeah, no, I would say that it has ever since the goalpost went in the river. I would say I started to see a lot more Vandy stuff, and it's pretty cool, and that's why you look at a guy like Diego Pavia and the energy that he's put into that program. I think is it's priceless. So to your point, and to Jake's point, it is cool to be associated with Vandy football now.
Probably answer that better than I can.
Well, I mean that's because I'm experiencing it. Like you said, you have it. That's your expertise. It's going to be on there regardless whether it's 3-0 or 0-3.
Yeah. It's been fun to see people on the sideline, and Theo Vaughn is a genuine football fan, from what I gather. It's not like I've had elongated conversations in practice. I just love the ball, and he obviously, I think there might be some like there might be some crossover representation between Diego and Theo. Don't quote me on that, but I think there's some crossover there, so they've gotten to know each other. And like I think Clark and Theo are genuine friends at this point. And Theo just loves ball. He's a kid from Louisiana that loves football, and we're certainly glad that he's someone that wants to support our program, be around our program, and support our program on SNL and all of this sort of stuff. So Nashville's a fun city. They're like, if you can't make the experience there's so many times I've heard passes my teeth on and be like, oh, I didn't know this was like your concept. Like, what's up with these targets?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it is that city. And Ryan Mickey had a great line in one of his articles about hockey. It's like, in a city that is almost impossible to grab attention for a long period of time, Eagles hockey is kind of grabbed the place of sports attention in the city. So it's good fun. I think we're trying to enjoy it. We're fun winning ball games. Fun ball West End.
Andrew, as always, appreciate you taking some time. Excited for the game this weekend against Georgia State. Again, you can listen to that game right here on 102.5 The Game with Andrew, Kevin, Norm, and the whole crew. Andrew, thanks for coming on. I'll see you on Saturday.
As always.
Appreciate it.
Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt football, joining us for his weekly visit. Great stuff from Andrew. We'll react to what he had to say and look a little bit at Vanderbilt's next couple of games against Georgia State and Utah State. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5.
Actual perks will depend on product and subscription plan. Featured products are compounded drug products which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information.
Want a boost in and out of the bedroom? Hims has you covered. Introducing a new 2-in-1 approach to level up your game. Tadalafil for better bedroom performance and zinc for testosterone support. Put it all together and you've got what you need to turn things all the way up. Getting started is simple. Just go to hims.com/radio to start your free online visit. Through Hims, you can access ED treatments including pills, chews, and more. 100% online. No office visits, no pharmacy lines. Just fill out a simple intake form and a licensed medical provider will determine if treatment's right for you. If prescribed, it ships free and discreetly to your door. Find affordable treatment options at up to 95% less than brand names at hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio. IMS.com/RADIO.
Are you trapped in a high-rate mortgage, watching your hard-earned money vanish every month? At Low Pronto, they are delivering the lowest mortgage rates in 3 years. Hey, Willie Donick here. Low Pronto's rate reduction home loan program is a streamlined, low-cost way to slash your home's payments by hundreds of dollars a month. Lock in a fixed rate as low as 4.99% APR and close in as little as 2 weeks. No appraisal needed in most cases, and you can skip your next 2 house payments entirely. Rates this low won't last. Call Low Pronto now for your free, no-obligation quote. Lower payments, more money in your pocket, and a fresh start with a better mortgage. Call 615-499-5780 or go to lowpronto.com to lock in your new low rate and skip those next 2 payments. 499-5780 or lowpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
Welcome to Tire Discounters. Oh, hiya, Phantom. Mike, I think I saw a fox on my way in.
Oh, that was the Carfax Carfox. He was congratulating us on our Carfax top-rated service center award.
I have always rated Tire Discounters at the very top.
Oh, thanks. And so does Carfax. And not just for tires, but for all our services, too.
Alignment, brakes, shocks, and struts, and more.
Yes, sir.
But Mike, do you think people believe Carfax over me?
Well, you are the Phantom Tire.
Exactly.
Willie Donick here from my favorite steakhouse, Jimmy Kelly's. Since 1934, Jimmy Kelly's Steakhouse has defined excellence in Music City dining. Now you have to check out the newly renovated Jimmy Kelly's with their hand-cut prime steaks. They set the standard of quality. Each bite crafted to be an unforgettable moment. Enjoy a generous pour and impeccable service. Now with a new, stunning rooftop dining area, that's a great place to go before the Vanderbilt games. Treat yourself to an exquisite dining experience at the world-famous Jimmy Kelly's Steakhouse.
This is the energy of space and sound. With 3 rows of premium seating. This is the 7-passenger Acura MDX. This is the energy of innovation. Acura, precision craft performance.
Experience the thrill at Gary Force Acura, proud sponsor of the Nashville Predators. GaryForceAcura.com.
Your sports live here on 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly with you for a little bit longer on this Thursday. I'm out here at Heritage Golf Course. Beautiful day for the third annual Pella Putt for Fame Golf Tournament. Jason Big Joe will be out here coming up at noon. Just talking to Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt football. Commodores taking on Georgia State on Saturday. That's a 6:30 kick at First Bank Stadium, 5 o'clock pregame right here on 102.5 The Game. TD, we talked to Andrew about his answer. It's cool to see Vandy as that a marketable football program that is in the national conversation right now. They're in the college football playoff conversation. I know that there are Vols fans out there who are not going to like hearing that, but it's true. Like Vanderbilt is 3-0, and there is a path for them to make the college football playoff. And realistic, but will they do it? That remains to be seen. But you look at their schedule, there is a path for them to do enough to be in contention, be in that 12-team playoff at the end.
Yeah, it's definitely an option. I think that's something to be excited about. Now, is it likely? No. However, just to be able to go to a Vandy game and not expect them to get blown out, I think that's a huge accomplishment in itself. But now it's like you not only not expect them to get blown out, you expect them to win. And you heard what Andrew said, you know, when he spoke about the shift and how this program is viewed. And I think getting to kind of start from the bottom, watching an organization, a program be built and work into something that's legitimate, it's fun. And it's something that you take pride in. It's like you feel a part of it because you've seen it. You've seen it from the infant stage up into adulthood. And I would say right now they're like that irritating teenager, you know, so they're still working towards being an adult, but they're getting there.
Right, and it helps for Vanderbilt having a face of this rebuild and rejuvenation of this program with Diego Pavia. Like a couple years ago, it was a cool story when Kansas finally got at themselves. Like Kansas had been known as the worst team in college football, as a worst team as a power conference team for a long time, and they started to dig themselves out. They got game day on campus. It was a cool story, but it wasn't as nationally recognized. Vandy has that national recognition because Diego Pavia has put himself out there in the spotlight, and so far he's backed up what he said. Like I know there was a lot of laughing about him saying, you know, I didn't come back to go 6-6 and talking about national championship, but so far he's gone out and done exactly what he said he was going to do.
That's all you could ask for, right? You tell me what you're going to do, then you go out and do it. And I think, you know, in this whole process, you got a program that's being built. And again, the expectation being to win. And obviously the players and the coaches, they're going to expect that. But when it's an expectation from other people who aren't putting the blood, sweat, and tears into it, that's when you know the program is elevating.
Right. And again, like you said, do I believe that Vandy is going to make the college football playoff? It would be a stretch. Like in order to do that, you likely have to win 2 out of the 4 between at Tennessee, at Texas, at Alabama, LSU. You got to win 2 of those games, and you have to win all the others. So it would be a tough ask for them to do that. It's not impossible, but it's going to be tough. And we get texters on here like 1325 says Vandy has a 7-win ceiling. They've already got 3. You would hope they can beat Utah State and Georgia State in 2 weeks. And then are you saying they can't beat all of Kentucky, Auburn, and Missouri at home? Like to say they can't win those games is kind of ridiculous. Vandy, do I think they're going to make the college football playoff? Unlikely. But to say that they can't win more than 7 games is kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, but again, it goes back to what and that's why I asked Andrew that question about the wins being cheapened, because you always have those who are going to find default in victory, right? Who are going to find something wrong with progress. It's human nature for select people, and that's always the case, and that's exactly what's happening in this instance.
Right, and you got to continue to take care of business. You kind of know as Vanderbilt that when you win games, the questions are going to be more about what did the other team do wrong, not what did Vandy do right. And you got to continue to win to change that narrative. They got some opportunities the next couple of weeks to prove that they're legit before heading to Tuscaloosa on October the 4th. So excited for this weekend. Vanderbilt at home against Georgia State. That is a 6:30 kick, 5 o'clock pregame with Andrew, Kevin Ingram, Norm Jordan, and the whole crew. You right here on 102.5 The Game. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get back into the Titans and Colts coming up on Sunday from Nissan Stadium. Also, we got Thursday Night Football tonight. Dolphins and Bills. Could Mike McDaniel be getting towards the end of his tenure in Miami? We'll talk about both those games in the final half hour here on the show. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man on 102.5 The Game.
Now, here's your latest Fox 17 Code Red Weather Report.
Brought to you by Window Nation. Get 2 free windows when you buy 2 at windownation.com.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bobus. This morning starting off in the upper 60s and low 70s, and we crank the heat up this afternoon. A mostly sunny day with high temperatures in the low to mid 90s, and we'll stay hot going into the weekend.
Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Preds fans, 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Become Smashville Loyal and secure the best seats at the best prices. Enjoy unprecedented access, exclusive Smashville Loyal events and discounts on tickets, concessions, and merch. Full, half, and 10-game plans are available now. Become Smashville Loyal today by visiting SmashvilleLoyal.com. That's SmashvilleLoyal.com. Let's go, Preds.
2 games, 1 unforgettable night. The 2025 Hoops for St. Jude Tip-Off Classic hits the FedEx Forum October 27th. Vanderbilt versus Memphis women's teams, followed by Arkansas versus Memphis men's teams. Every ticket supports St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, where families never receive a bill from St. Jude for treatment, travel, housing, or food. Get your tickets now at stjude.org/hoops. That's stjude.org/hoops.
Welcome to Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel, where every dish tells the story of Southern tradition and culinary excellence. Dive into our enhanced menu, featuring delights like the legendary biscuit bar and freshly revamped dishes that bring the farm straight to your fork. For leisurely breakfast or a hearty lunch, and every day we treat you to a meal that feels like home. Experience the fresh feel at Kitchen Notes inside the Omni Nashville Hotel, where every bite is a note in Nashville's symphony of
Hey, this is Melissa with the National Business Funding Network.
Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. The summer is winding down, and fall will be here before we know it. My friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville have amazing special deals right now, and they're just in time to replace those old, drafty windows for the cold winter months. I endorse Pella because they're the highest quality windows and doors, the most trusted brand, and they improve the value of your home over all the others. So go with the experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Visit PellaNashville.com for more information.
Jarrett Fire Protection is the local one-stop shop for all of your fire protection needs. Whether it's your children's schools, your apartment building, or your place of work, Jarrett Fire is here to make sure that Middle Tennessee's properties stay safe, compliant, and protected. We are NICE certified with experienced technicians who are able to take care of all of your fire and life safety systems. So you only need to make one call to stay off of the fire marshal's to-do list. Dial 615-515-1290 or go to jarrettfire.com today to get a free in-person quote. Jarrett Companies, above and beyond industry standards.
Don't risk your retirement. Plan for long-term care now with Patrick Conger at LPL Financial Nashville. Help protect your assets and ease the burden on loved ones. Securities offered through LPL Financial. Member FINRA SIPC.
93.3 Totally Hits Totally Nashville wants to send you to see Mixtape, the ultimate 80s tribute band at City Winery Friday, October 3rd at 7:30. Sing, dance, relive the 80s from the hits from Journey, Bon Jovi, and more. Listen all week for your chance to win tickets only on Totally Hits 93.3. Details at TotallyHitsNashville.com.
It's football season at JBJ's. Touchdowns, cold drinks, and the best vibes on Broadway. It's all happening at JBJ's this football season. NFL Sunday Ticket. Catch every game, every Sunday. JBJ's is your ultimate Sunday fun day spot. Primetime games. We've got every Monday night and Thursday night matchup on the big screens. Game day eats and drinks. Fuel up with wings, cold beers, and your favorite cocktails while the action unfolds. Bring your crew, rep your team, and catch every snap, every highlight, and every victory at JBJ's, the place to be this football season.
Next man up with Jake Lyman. Your sports live here on 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville Sports Network.
When you're going up against a defensive team like the Colts, what are some key must-dos for your offense, including the quarterback?
You have to see the post-snap. You know, there's a lot of things that change in the time between lining up on the ball and snapping the ball. pressure package is multiple. He's got every pressure. So what they are for us this week, you got to be ready for a multitude of things, and the quarterbacks are ready to handle those, whether they're protection checks or they're quick throws or quick answers. Those things, there's a lot on the quarterback to manage when you play a defense like this. I think Cam's up to the task, and he'll be prepared for it. But it's always one of those games where you're likely to see something maybe you haven't necessarily prepared for, or they haven't done in 12 weeks or 2 years or something like that. Lou's got quite a bit of defense at his disposal. He's got a deep bag, if you will. So we got to be ready to play our rules at the end of the day, which is always what you got to do when you're facing teams that do a lot of different things and try to keep you off balance. So plenty of Cam's plate this week for sure, and then we got to do well around him to help that.
That was Brian Callahan yesterday talking about keys to success for the Titans offense on Sunday against Indianapolis. Titans looking for their first win of the season before a 3-game road trip throughout the rest of September. Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly with you on this Thursday. Next man up, 102.5 the game. I am out here at Hermitage Golf Course for the 3rd annual Pella Putt for Pink Golf Tournament. Chase and Big Joe will be out here as well. They're coming up at the top of the hour. Team, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but feels like this is make or break time for Brian Kelly. You've got the 3-game road trip coming up. You've gotten off to a slow start 0-2, and the Broncos game made it even worse for Brian Callahan because you could blame a lot of the things that went wrong on him. I said it earlier, I think you need an impressive win on Sunday from Brian Callahan to start digging himself out of this hole. Because you're getting to the point of no return where it's like there just may not be enough that Brian Callahan can do if you get to 0-3, 0-4, 0-5 to get himself back in the good graces of the fan base and continue to keep himself, I guess, in the good graces of the front office and the ownership.
Yeah, no, this is as much of a must-win game in week 3 as I could think of in a bit. And I think when you look at this being a winnable game for them, it's a division game, it's against a team that's 2-0. There's a lot of positive that could be spun off of this. And so that's why it's very important that they go out and they have everything firing from the jump. But also, they have to find a way to get some production on both sides of the ball in the 4th quarter. So there's an opportunity to answer a lot of questions with this win. I don't think it's a long-term solution, but this is a game where they could definitely get things going back in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, it seems like he's going to put himself between a rock and a hard place if he's not already there. That if you lose this game, because odds are 3-game road trip against teams that are talented. Cardinals are 2-0. Texans have won the division the last couple of years. I think the Raiders probably the most beatable team you're going to see on that road trip. But odds are you lose this game, you maybe win one of those games on the road, and you come back to face that Patriots team. And we talked about the Patriots game earlier. That feels like the spot where a decision's going to get made one way or another just because of who's on the other sideline. And if you come into that game at 1-5 or 0-6, I just don't know if you can survive a loss to your predecessor on the other side of the Patriots.
Right, and that's the big thing, and that's why that game is just sitting there on. And even when it was on the schedule, when the schedule first came out, it's like that's it right there. That's going to be the gauge. Now, of course, this organization has made a significant change in each of the last 3 years. Do they want to do that on the 4th year? Like, is that going to trying to avoid that? Is that going to give them give Callahan a little bit more cushion? I don't know. I do know this. There's a lot of emotions that's involved in these decisions, and a blowout win to Mike Vrabel or loss to Mike Vrabel and the Titans, it would mean Mike Vrabel and the Patriots. It would be such a huge. It would be crushing for this organization.
Right. I think the Titans don't want to fire Brian Callahan, obviously.
Right.
They want some stability around this team because, like you said, they've made major change after major change. 2022 was John Robinson. 2023 Mike Vrabel. Ran Carthon last year. Like, you'd like to get through a whole season without swapping out leadership at one spot or the other, but you can't have stability just for stability. abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't just keep him to keep him. He's got to show that he's turning this thing in the right direction. And this feels like a big game. You mentioned, like, as much as a game can be a must-win in week 3, and I'm not saying must-win for the team. Like, this team's probably not competing for a playoff spot, so winning this game isn't going to affect the overall outcome of the season. But for Brian Callahan and staying as the leader of this team as the head coach, feels like you got to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it can't be a game where you back into a win 17-13 because Daniel Jones played horrible and threw 3 awful picks and you just kind of got away with it. You got to show that it was an impressive win where your team went out and took it and beat a divisional opponent at home. And like you said earlier, take some momentum into this road trip because I mentioned the Texans, Raiders, and Cardinals. None of those are gimmies, but they're all gettable. And if you take some momentum into that, maybe you can get something going. And Brian Callahan can start to feel like he's on steadier ground with his job.
And Jake, you did a good job there just reeling it back in, right? Because this is a team, like, they can't afford to look down the schedule. This team has to look at literally what's right in front of them, you know, and okay, you could look down the line from the aspect of we got to get this one because this is one that we could spin into more. Like if I'm a coach, a player, whatever, that's the only way that I'm looking beyond this game. But to your point, what's in front of you is the most important thing, and they're not in a position where they could overlook anything. And at that same time, this is a buy one get one free. It's actually a buy one get two free situation, right? Because you get the win. It's a win against a divisional opponent, but it's also a win just to kind of put things on notice a little bit. Like, hey, look, I get it was 0-2, but when it comes to the division, we're going to make some noise. And this is an example. So there's a lot that's riding on this game. I'm almost tempted to pick the Titans to win, but I just am not at a state where I could do that. But I think this is going to be a much more respectable game, and I think it's one that they have the best chance of winning out of the teams that they've faced so far.
Yeah, and Robert Taylor's come out and said the Titans are going to win
Mm.
Sunday. He's picked it in. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as picking it because again, when you're 3-16 as a head coach, it's tough to pick to win any of these.
Same saying.
But it's just the desperation factor has to be there at some point, right? Like they got to play for Brian Callahan, and we'll see what happens on Sunday. It does feel like a big win, and I know we're not talking about it because the expectation externally is that the Titans aren't going to be competitive for the AFC South. Like media fans, you look at this team, they don't look like a playoff team. But I'm sure internally, TD, they do look at this as a big game for the division because Jaguars are 1-1, and you've got Liam Cohen screaming at Trevor Lawrence across the field, and Trevor Lawrence waving him off. Brian Thomas Jr. is making business decisions. So who knows what's going on? The Texans are 0-2, and C.J. Stroud looks like he's fading away on every pass he throws. You win this game, you're within one game of first place in the division. Like I understand we're not talking about that because that's not the expectation, but I'm sure that's something in the locker room that they're talking about. That if they want to compete this year and be in the conversation, this is a game you have to win.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. You got to win the game, and that's really what it boils down to. So we'll see how they're able to go ahead and do this, but it's a piece by piece kind of thing, right? You got to come out, be effective on offense, right? You got to continue the special teams excellence. You got to be shut down on defense, and to have all three of those phases happen the way that it needs to, it's not likely, with the results that we've seen over the last, little over a year, but at some point, you got to be able to turn it around. And I think this is a good opportunity to do so.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Last call for phones. If you have any thoughts, questions for TD, we will try and get to them in our last segment coming up. Did want to preview Dolphins-Bills a little bit tonight. Lopsided game on paper. Maybe the only head coach who is on thinner ice than Brian Callahan across the NFL right now. We will get to that coming up next. And wrap up the show. Jake London, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly. Next man up.
This is Jeff Hill, your home for for Sounds Baseball is 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville app, with select games on Sports Talk 8:30 a.m. Catch every great Sounds moment right here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Sounds Baseball is brought to you locally by Family Leisure and Twin Peaks. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Hey guys, it's Mike from Newton Nissan South. September is almost at its end. September 22nd is its official last day. But let's make sure that we end summer on a super fun note. School starting doesn't mean all the summer fun has to end. And how about a make your getaway with us to really put some icing on the cake? That's right. Soak up these last days of summer, the ultimate summer date night giveaway. Here's how to enter. Visit NewtonNissanSouth.com. Find the ice cream cone symbol on a random page of our website. Take a screenshot and send it to us in a message on our Facebook or Instagram. The last day to enter is September 30th.
Imagine working in a place where you help build the future. At Oshkosh Vocational's new 850,000 square foot facility in Murfreesboro, they're building the next generation of electric refuse trucks and heavy duty equipment and looking for skilled individuals to grow with us. But here's the real question. Are you ready to build something that matters? If you are looking for a rewarding career with competitive benefits and a supportive team, then Oshkosh Vocational is the place for you. Visit our website, oshkoshcorp.com/careers to apply today and make a career of making a difference.
The Nashville Oktoberfest is quickly approaching, and now's the time to get your dirndls, lederhosen, and party steins ready. From local breweries to live music to festival artisans, you can't go wrong celebrating this fun Germantown tradition. The Nashville Oktoberfest 2025, Thursday, October 2nd through the 5th at Bicentennial Mall in Germantown. Prepare yourself for 4 days of brats, beer, live music, and competitions. General admission is $10. VIP experience reservations still available at thenashvilleoktoberfest.com. Prost, y'all!
The Parker Store at 1909 Nolensville Road in Nashville is the Parker Factory Authorized Store for your Parker hydraulic, pneumatic, water, and chemical hose needs. They stock metric tubing and hose connections to 42 millimeters in size, and they'll fabricate while you wait up to 6,000 PSI hydraulic hoses in a 2-inch size. Call the Parker Store at 615-248-8245 for all the Parker requirements you have. The Parker Store, 1909 Nolensville Road.
Paper items and nurse health plans not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at borders.com apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are FDA approved and registered trademarks of Novo Nordisk AES, which is not affiliated with Hanson Nerves.
Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/radio, you can access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored to you. These include oral medication kits and compounded GLP-1 injections, the same active ingredient that's in Ozempic and Wegovy. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits starts at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatments that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help from Hers. Get started at forhers.com/radio to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/radio. FORHERS.com/radio.
Yeah, it's weird. It sounds like there's something playing in the background, like somebody's listening to the show, but it's playing on the air.
Injured in an accident? Call Ponce Law. We offer a no-fee guarantee, and for over 30 years, we've been helping injured people just like you. We've been voted best.
Gotcha. Yeah, they'll just have to deal with it. It's another 15 minutes.
If you've been injured, call us today at 615-244-4321. Ponce Law, justice for all.
Follow us on X at 1025 The Game, Instagram, and YouTube at The Game Nashville. Next Man Up with Jake Lyman. Your sports live here on 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville Sports Network.
The show on this Thursday, Jake Lyman, Turron, Davenport, Parker Kelly. Next Man Up, 1025 The Game. Chasing Big Joe coming up right after us. We are out at the 3rd annual Pella Putt for Pink Golf Tournament. Had a great day at Hermitage Golf Course so far. And again, 3 more hours out here with Jason and Big Joe right after us. TV, want to wrap up the show talking about tonight's Thursday night football game. Dolphins and Bills from Buffalo might have ourselves a lot. This might be one where you can go to bed early. But when we talked about Brian Callahan's job prospects, I think the only only guy with a hotter seat right now is probably Mike McDaniel. And not that like this game they're expected to win, but you just look at the way that team is playing and Tua Tagovailoa and the injuries and the way he's developed. It feels like that one is almost a win, not an if, of Mike McDaniel being fired and then moving on.
Yeah, it's just a mess over there. I was just looking through my fantasy roster, and I almost dropped Darren Waller. You know what I mean? He's not available to play. It's just one thing after another, and now you look at all the weapons they have, like the talent. Like, that's one thing. You look at the Titans, you look at the Dolphins. You can't say the Dolphins are not talented. Like, there's stupid amount of talent on that offense. The defense, they've traded a lot of it away, but them losing and not having more success is just, it's mysterious to me. But when you look at where they've fallen from, I mean, this team just a couple of years ago was one of the most exciting teams in the country. Yeah, I'm still thinking college in the league. You know what I mean? So now look at it.
Yeah, and Tyreek Hill was a big part of that. Obviously, he's lost a step, and with guys who predicate their game on speed, that happens. There's been some trade rumors around Tyreek Hill. If he gets moved, where would you like to see him go, and why is it going to be the Kansas City Chiefs who bring him back?
Yeah, I think that's really the only situation that works. Because I mean, outside of the Chiefs, do you want Tyreek Hill? Like, if you were a team that doesn't know him and doesn't have an understanding, like, would you want him?
Probably not.
Right.
Like, he's got off the field stuff going on right now too. Like, I don't know if I'd want to pay any kind of draft capital to get Tyreek Hill on my team.
But see, a team like the Chiefs, they need that punch in the arm. They're 0-2. And we know the situation receiver-wise, Rashee Rice, and what's going on with him. It's not good. It's not good whatsoever. So you get a little shot in the arm like that, that would help them. I could see them making the move, but anyone else, stay away.
The Chiefs are kind of turning into the Houston Astros of, like, guys leave after the success they have with Houston, and they don't maybe have the same success elsewhere, and eventually they just bring them back and they return to form. Like Carlos Correa is back in Houston. It's like he's back to who he was before. Same thing with the wide receivers. Like Nicole Hardman went to the Jets and did nothing. Comes back, catches the game-winning touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster, another example. So who knows? Maybe the Chiefs do make a move and try and bring Tyreek Hill back. Chase McCabe is sitting behind me right now. They're getting ready for their show, and he asked me to ask you a question here. If Mike McDaniel was going to get fired, and let's say the Titans make a coaching change as well, and they bring in a defensive-minded head coach, would Mike McDaniel be somebody that you would consider as the offensive coordinator?
I would consider it, but it's just tough because there's a gift and a curse with that. You bring him in, the offense excels. He's going back to get another head coaching job, right? So you just got to be wary of that. But hey, I mean, one thing that is good is if that did happen, you get another draft pick, right? Because he positioned himself and the minority situation. So the compensation. So you do have that. But to answer your question, it's something I would consider. It is, but it just would depend on what the other options are out there.
Right. I guess the hope would be it could turn into a Cliff Kingsbury situation where maybe he wasn't cut out to be a head coach, but if you get him back into his element where he's just the play caller and can focus on scheming things up for a good young quarterback like we've seen with Cliff Kingsbury and Jay Daniels, maybe Mike McDaniel, when he's taken out of that head coaching role, could be the guy for Cam Ward. Again, this is all hypothetical. He's still the head coach of the Dolphins. Brian Callahan is still the head coach of the Titans. But maybe just an idea if we get to the offseason, the Titans are looking for a new offensive line.
Right, exactly. It's one to consider. But you know what? We got 15 more games. 15 more games because week 3, although we've played it out in our mind, it still is yet to be played on the field. So.
Right. Long way to go. Titans and Colts coming up on Sunday at Nissan Stadium. Last home game before a 3-game road trip for Tennessee. Looking at this Bills team tonight, TD, if this isn't the Bills' year, then I don't know if it's ever going to happen. Like, they've gotten so close with Josh Allen. The Chiefs look down, and I'm not counting the Chiefs out. I'm not going to be stupid enough to count Patrick Mahomes out in September, but the pieces around him just don't look as good anymore. They're old. They're not explosive. If this isn't the year for the Buffalo Bills, I just don't know if it's ever going to happen with this core as currently constructed. Josh Allen's got a window that's going to last for a while, but it might be time to kind of tear it down around him and try and build it back up again.
AFC Championship game, Ravens at Baltimore. Derrick Henry is going to rush for 180 plus with 2 touchdowns, no fumbles, and the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl, and they are going to win it.
Yeah, Derrick Henry, he did fumble in that Sunday Night Football game week 1, but Derrick Henry does have the Buffalo Bills number.
Mm-hmm.
He does. I mean, you look back to that Monday night game here in 2021, I was in the stands for that game, made the trip out to Pittsburgh for that one, and that is still one of the best football games I've ever watched in person. Titans went down early. Derrick Henry hit the 80-yard touchdown to get him back in it, and then it ended with that goal line stand to stop Josh Allen on the quarterback sneak to win it. That was fun, and that was the start of, you take that one, the COVID Tuesday night game where Derrick Henry stiff-arm Josh Norman into the next dimension. Like, he's got their number, and I would think that's probably not a matchup the Bills would be looking forward to if it is the AFC Championship against Baltimore.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. It'll be huge, but in the meantime, the Bills will have a blowout tonight. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're 11.5-point favorites. You usually don't see a line that big in the NFL. These are all professionals. Usually the games are decided by one score. I don't think that's going to be the case tonight. It's in Buffalo, night game. I think the Bills boat race the Dolphins tonight on Thursday Night Football. Again, Titans and Colts coming up on Sunday from Nissan Stadium. As most games are for the Titans this year, it's a noon kick. Follow along with Turron Davenport for all his coverage this weekend. TD, always appreciate you taking some time, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, for sure. Yeah, appreciate it, man. Definitely cool to be on. Appreciate everybody listening, too.
Yes, and again, TD, on next Thursday, we'll recap what happens with the Colts game and look ahead to the Titans trip to Houston coming up next week. Again, it has been a phenomenal day out here at Hermitage Golf Course for the third annual Pella Putt for Pink golf tournament benefiting breast cancer recovery in action. You can see all the participants getting ready out here at Hermitage Golf Course. Again, it's a beautiful day. Shotgun start coming up at 1 o'clock. Chase and Big Joe are going to take you the rest of the way out here from Hermitage Golf Course. Looking ahead to tomorrow, I will be out at Pred's training camp at Fordyce Center in Bellevue. Connor Newt is going to join me. We'll talk plenty of Titans, get ready for the college football weekend and much more, but also we'll look ahead to the Pred season, which is now just 3 weeks away. For Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, I'm Jake Lyman. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next here on 102.5 The Game.